Go for it. You can start.
Hello everyone, welcome to our live discussion. We are FAO World Fisheries University student from Tokyo National University based in Busan, South Korea. We are happy to join you and share our experience with you. Before we do that, I'd like to give you a brief background of World Fisheries University. It was established as a pilot program in 2017, and it's been governed by FAO in Rome and funded by Korean government. Today, we are going to share our experience with regards to SSF from our country. But I'll also tell you that FAO World Fisheries program is divided into 3 groups: fisheries management, aquaculture technology, and social science. The social science group is today going to have their discussions and share their experience. To start with, I'll start on my left, and then the panel will introduce themselves, and then we'll start the discussion. So I'll start with my left.
Hello, my name is Yona Fitri, majoring social science in WFU FAO, and I'm from Indonesia. Thank you.
Hi, good night from Korea. My name is Telimay Castro. I'm from Venezuela, social science major in WFU, and glad to be with all of you.
Hello, my name is Catherine. I'm from Uganda, same as my colleagues. I'm doing fisheries sciences for fisheries university.
Good evening, everyone. I am Harley Jacinto from the Republic of the Philippines, major in fisheries social science.
Great, wonderful to have this discussion. And social science group, we had a compulsory course, which is SSF, and then also Blue Growth Economy. So we'll start with Jonah. Jonah, in your country, how is SSF is being treated?
For Indonesia, for small-scale fisheries, we have the main characteristic of Indonesian fisheries is open access for small-scale fisheries. It means the boat under 30 GT didn't require license to go fishing, but the boat with the size more than that is required to have license to go fishing. So in general, for us, for small scale, it's like open access.
Oh, that's great. Wonderful to hear that, because it's different from other countries that I know. Tell me, what about Venezuela?
In case of Venezuela, in order to go to fish, all the fishers require permits, but the policies of the government are focused to give preferences and important way to access for small-scale fisheries and fishing grounds. We also have several species which are of exclusive exploitation for small-scale fishers, such as sardine, which is our main species, our main fishery resource.
Okay, wow. Kati, Uganda means you guys don't have marine, but inland fishery. So how is being also handled in terms of Uganda?
Well, for Uganda, we are largely non-industrial. Most of our fisheries is small scale, but we see it as an important, we see fish as an important commodity. So same as Teli, all fishermen require fishing permits to go fishing. It's not open access, and that is how fishermen have been controlling accessing the fisheries. In my country, fishermen believe they have a belief that it is godly given, it's free, and it is entitled for everyone. But sensitizations are being put in place for the dangers of massive encroachment from fishermen, and they also have been respecting.
Oh, wow. Good to know that. My good friend Heidi, how has been done? It has been done in Philippines.
In the case of the Philippines, small-scale fisheries is very important since 25% of the total fish production comes from small-scale fisheries. And when you say small-scale fisheries in the Philippines, it is fishing within 15 kilometers from the coastline of the, yeah. So as far as I know, we don't really require permit as long as as long as you're fishing within the 15-kilometer distance.
Oh, okay. Good. Like, I wanted to find out if in your countries, are there any closing seasons to ensure that the biodiversity is being protected or not?
In cases in Indonesia, we only do not like in Indonesia is like a very large maritime country. We divided our fisheries management into 11 areas, but for open and closed season, it didn't really mandate it into law or regulation, but some areas will have an open and closed season, like for some area, small area in Java Island, they have like a closed season for crab, but it's not like obviously closed, but we can consider it as open and closed season.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, in Venezuelan case, especially for the high commercial interest species, we have closed season. For example, the sardine, as I mentioned before, is the main species produced in the country. So we have closed season from December 15 until March 15, because it's the time for the spawning and the reproduction of the sardine. And we also have for different species, such as blue crab, octopus. We have around, I think, more than 20 technical rules that regulate the fisheries of some species.
Oh, wow. Kathy, is it applicable in Uganda because of the inland?
Yes, they have tried. The authority is trying with the closed seasons, but it has not yet been implemented. The closed areas, though, is being put in place to protect certain breeding grounds in a specific time. But so many social workers come against it because most of the fishermen engaging in fishing are poor people, and during that time, the government has not yet found a solution for them how they will be getting what to eat. So it is more of fisheries a battle between social workers and fisheries resource managers. So it is not yet been implemented.
No, I know it's very difficult to do that, but I read in a publication in one of the countries that it is the same thing also applying with Uganda, that people are finding it difficult to eat, so they can't implement the closes. So what they did is that the government allocated money aside to be given free food for a period of time, maybe a month or something. But I think it can be done in Uganda.
Maybe it can be done, but so far not yet.
Honey, do you have any idea what the Philippines, whether they do?
Yeah, we have closed season. For example, with the round scad, we have 3-month closed season of round scad. Round scad will continuously monitoring during the whole 3 months to ensure the sustainability of round scad. Yeah. And this year it's like the 6th year since it has been implemented.
Wow,
Yeah.
excellent. Good. And like since it has been implemented for this 6 years, has there been any good results, or you have no idea
I don't have
the data?
the data, yeah, but for sure.
One of the main things that is happening in this world is the world is being advanced and developed, and then the indigenous knowledge is being depleted or like is being undervalued. So like, how is your government in your various countries incorporating indigenous knowledge in fisheries management?
For Indonesia, it's kind of in separate way. Like for the local coastal communities, they usually have their own way to fish to go fishing and to do harvesting. But in terms of regulation, government didn't really absorb or consider the local knowledge and then put it into paper as law and regulation. But I believe in Indonesian culture, in Indonesian fisheries government as the authorities, they might have the influence from the local knowledge, but it's not, I cannot really say clearly that's one set of regulation or one set of law or technical measure is being noted from particular local knowledge. But I believe that it's influence each other.
Venezuela, how is it like?
Well, it's quite similar to Indonesia in the way that, yeah, indigenous people, we have several different indigenous communities in our country, and they do the coastal fisheries in their way, but the Venezuelan state have important regulations in the Constitution of the Republic and also the decree law of fisheries and aquaculture that respect and try to protect that native knowledge that protect the settlement of those fishing communities and try to respect that time when they apply technical rules. That's the main policy.
Uganda, is there any indigenous knowledge being incorporated in the fisheries management aspect?
Use another word for indigenous knowledge.
Indigenous knowledge means how the old people were being handled in fisheries management, like example, in Alaska and Canada, part of North Canada is like they were not the communities themselves. They set rules and regulations on how many salmon that you can harvest per day and when not to harvest because they wanted to increase the number of responding and all those issues. But and the indigenous, but the kind of net and tools that they use and those aspects.
So if it is for that case, in my country, most of those fishing communities, we call them the locals. It is, they handle fishing their own way. Sometimes the resource managers find a problem to incorporate their own scientific ways into what they believe is right. So we have found ways of managing the indigenous knowledge in like putting it into play because what they believe in most cases works also. So it's upon the elders getting hand in hand with the resource managers. And where there is really a contradiction, the resource managers will sit with the elders to tell them the impacts of what they think is right. And they really try to work like together.
That's nice, yeah. Good. The Philippines, how is it like?
So in the Philippines, since we have co-management.
Co-management.
Yes, so yes, so the opinion, the experience of the people in the fishing communities, the stakeholders were considered. Well, the same as in Indonesia, it's not written in the paper, but in formulating the regulations, the laws, the policies, they consider the knowledge of the people in the fishing communities because they are the one in that area. They know the place, they know how things are supposed to be, though usually they don't rely on scientific data, but I think through their experiences, it is important to consider their opinions in establishing the policies in every areas, in every fishing communities.
Oh, that's good. Like us set up on the co-management issues, like I think 2015, World Bank started a project in West Africa to ensure that the countries implement a co-management aspect in their policies to ensure that indigenous knowledge is being enhanced and is being maintained to ensure that.
I think the co-management and co-governance, like the participation of the local into making the regulation regarding the fisheries, is one of the key of the good fisheries management, because it will give the authority and government like a good information about how to manage fisheries in the certain or regional area.
Based on what's really happening
On the ground, because they are involved in their activities. And they know the waters, how it is compared to those not on the floor.
Yes,
So,
this very essential.
Yeah, that's why the means of interactions between the government, between the authorities and small-scale fisheries is crucial to find a solution to improve fishers' livelihoods and improve also increase the fisheries contribution for the economies of our countries.
And then it will benefit each other, like the government and also the
all
communities.
stakeholders.
yeah. So it's win-win affairs when we incorporate in the indigenous knowledge.
Yeah, and also not showing them force is the good way to go. You cannot just bring your scientific knowledge and you think they will 100% collaborate with what you're saying. But if you work with them, and in most cases, elders think they know. I'm sorry to say that, but in case of a situation where the scientists will see a danger in it, you can give it seasons. You're like, okay, let's try your method this season and see how it plays. If that hand-in-hand collaboration is there, then it's a win-win.
To minimize conflict, right?
Yes, that's good. That's good. Let's talk about the contribution of women. Like the having had a study, HHI just pointed out that nearly more than half of the women contribute a lot in fisheries, but they are not recognized in their activities. So, like, how is it like in the Philippines?
Okay, I can start with Indonesia first. So Indonesia is kind of conservative country. I think we can start from that. So the role of women is really like a mother or a wife, even though women participate in fisheries, but mostly is I think like all the women in the fisheries in general, that they participate mostly in post-harvest, but also even though in post-harvest they are not count as fishers. And then we also have like an issue, or it's kind of dilemma for us to define what is the definition of fisheries in our law. So we kind of still have it's kind of questionable whether the fisher is the only people who go to fish, or the post-harvest also count as fishers. So it's kind of not really clear in Indonesia, but in terms of women, mostly it is in post-harvest. And also, even though we count the post-harvest as fisher, but mostly women didn't define, or the society didn't define the woman in the post-harvest sector as a fisher. I think it's still something that we need to improve, like how to acknowledge and then to make it clear the definition of fishers in Indonesia. It's to acknowledge the role of women in the whole value chain of fisheries.
Venezuela.
In Venezuela, women participate as a fisher and also participate in the post-harvest segment of the value chain. But still the percentage compared to men is low. Women in fisheries is around 20% of the Council of Fishers, which is the main type of social organization in Venezuela for small-scale fishers. So I think we can improve that participation, and also we have to overcome several cultural barriers. There are some places in Venezuela, for example, that the men think if the woman go to fish with them, they will not catch anything because women bring bad luck for them. So still we have to work on it. The legislation in Venezuela is quite strong about women rights and women participation, but we have to overcome those cultural mindset that sometimes stop the improvement of women participation in fisheries.
I'll go to Uganda, then I'll come back to.
Okay, for Uganda, it goes back to what my friend Yana said. It is all about defining and knowing what fisheries is. If we go to the value chain from from obtaining inputs to marketing, then in Uganda, women contribute over 60%. It's just that fisheries is looked at mostly in only the fourth node of capturing fish in the lake. That is where women in my country are not considered legitimate. And then it goes back to the norms, society. If I am the mother in a home, my husband is supposed to provide naturally. Society knows it, everyone knows it. It would not be okay if I went in the night in the cold to look for look for food for our kids and money when you, the man of the house, is sleeping. So they do it in form of that is how society is. And also given the loving and nature men are, they want to provide for their women. That is why they do not allow women to participate in that one node of capture of fish from the sea. But other than that, we have seen women in Uganda participating in post-harvest handling. We have seen them like providing money because in Uganda, women actually are more of business people than the men. So they actually fund the men, buy boats, buy nets, put money into the fishing, and marketing also. Big markets in my country are owned and operated by women. And besides that, also in leadership, we see women in my country leaders in the fisheries sector. So it all goes back to defining what fisheries really is. But for my country, women really participate in fisheries.
Yeah. I haven't been to Uganda, you say, but most of the African countries I have traveled to and visited, it's almost the same thing as Catherine said, because even in Ghana, Togo, and Nigeria, they call them fish mummies. So like they have more powers and then they own the boat. But what it is that like they own it, but the men feel proud as their own. But it's being funded by these women, and then it's fronted by the men. So Philippine, how is it like? Is it opposite?
No,
with
in the
Uganda?
Philippines, it's just the same case in Indonesia and Uganda, but let's talk about it. So in fisheries value chain, women in the Philippines participate in every segment of the value chain, from the access to resources up to the marketing of the commodities. So for the access of resources, mostly they only have access on low value species because they mostly do blaming. So they fish the species that are actually still abundant. So we can say that they fish more sustainably than men. And for the preparation of the gears, they do net mendings, which is very essential in fishing. Also, in the processing, in the Philippines, 50 to 70% of the processing activities are done by women. So you just by that number, you will see how big or significant the contribution of women is in the fisheries sector. Because fisheries is more than just fisheries industry is more than just the harvest stage. It's the post-harvest is and marketing is more critical because that's where you get the money. And of course, in marketing and trading, in some commodities, women dominate in trading because it is said that they are easier to deal with. But then there are other commodities too which are dominated by men because they have greater mobility, which gives them more access to profitable markets. And in terms of fisheries management, women are still underrepresented. I can say that in the Philippines, in our data, just around 23% are women in the fish are, which is the registered, where municipal fisher folks register themselves, only 23% are women. And you will see how you will feel their absence in the statistics because they think that, okay, my husband will represent our family, so let him register himself for the family. So, so that's why you will see in fisheries management, they have hard time trying to have leadership roles or participating in an organizations because they think themselves that they are only for subordinate position, that they can't be leader themselves. And then if a woman, so there are cases in the Philippines, they have successfully became leaders. But then the challenge is maintaining that position. And that's another challenge. Because there are a lot of challenges in women which hinders their full participation in the Philippines. Like what our colleague said, the traditional beliefs, the social norms that the men are the head of the family, and women are supposed to manage the household chores. So that's a big challenge for the women. Also, the empowerment of women, are they being empowered enough? In my country, we have Magna Carta law for women, and we also have national network on women in fisheries, an NGO to empower women in fisheries. We also have gender comprehensive program, which provides subsidies for women, women-friendly food, and other gender-sensitive trainings. So I can only hope that this program will continue to empower women in my country because women are have significant role in our fisheries industry.
That's excellent because, like, as you did mention in Philippines that they have a network of women, a funding association. I think Yolande can learn something from Philippines because her thesis research found a different story from Togo because and then what they were asking is this, that they don't have a strong network and funding that doesn't help them to improve their businesses. And then in your discussion, all of you talked about the cultural barriers issues in your country. Because I noticed that
I think that's everywhere.
it's everywhere. Is it specifically cultural barriers? Telly mentioned that in Venezuela they believe that if the women are in the boats, they will not harvest. Is there any specific examples
No.
from?
In Indonesia, it's not really the case because some women actually go to do the harvest, to do the capture fisheries because sometimes, as we all know, the small-scale fisheries is dealing with property. Sometimes the fisher, like the man of the house, like they cannot hire some labor to help them to go fishing to do for the capture. So they will utilize the family. So the wife and the child, the children usually help them to go to harvest the fish and to do the capture fisheries, and then all of the family will go. So I don't, because this case is had so many family in Indonesia doing that. So basically, women also participate, but kind of supporting actor for the man of the family in captured fisheries. So I don't think that in Indonesia we see women on a board is a bad luck or something like in Venezuela.
In Chile, apart from the women being in the boats, is there any example that you can share with us in terms of the culture barriers?
No, they also participate in the post-harvest segment, processing sardine, processing some type of clams. And with the blue crab, it's interesting because I think almost 100% of the people who work in the blue crab processing factories are women. So they have an important participation, but at society level, usually it's not well recognized. And also the salary they receive, the money they can make is not equal to the men in so many cases. Of course, we have successful examples, but there are few comparing with the whole women in the sector.
Oh, okay. It's very interesting to notice that both men and women do the same work, but they pay men more money as compared to
Classic inequality.
classic inequality. Uganda.
Yes, please. So for the beliefs, they are really there, many, because of course I'll take you back to our society engaging in fisheries, being local. These things have to be there. Like Telly, they believe women on board are bad luck. That is one. Then two, in my society, especially in the local, unlike us, the modern people, they don't. Women don't put on trousers. They put on skirts and dresses. So it being like that, they believe that when a woman goes on board with them, she's actually exposing her nudity to the gods of the lake, and by doing that, they will not get fish. So they don't allow women to go on the lake. Because of course the woman can't put on trousers, they just have to respect it the way it is. And then also it goes back to society, how a woman is expected to be. You're supposed to, naturally, women are caretakers. You're supposed to take care of the home, take care of the kids. That is why most of the roles, unlike us educated women, most of the roles, if it's drying fish, you dry it at home when you're taking care of the kids, cooking food for the family. And then also the issue of risks. Being out, like capturing fish in particular, being out on the lake late in the night, for the sake of our fisheries, most of the catch is obtained at night. It's cold, it's windy, they don't like it to, men don't like to risk their women in such kind of job. I don't know if it's undermining, but they feel we are too weak to handle such. So those are some of the beliefs and constraints on my side.
It's interesting to know that in Uganda, women are not allowed to wear trousers. Therefore, that leads to them not allowed to be in the boat to harvest fish. What about Philippines?
So in the Philippines, in some parts of the Philippines, there is a certain biological condition of women which brings bad luck, such as pregnancy. So if you're pregnant, and then you go fishing, you will bring bad luck. So that's one. And I think my colleagues discussed a lot about it already, because women do a lot of unpaid work. Their role is often on the background, a supporting role, and as some additional income for the family. Because I think one thing that also limits their engagement in fisheries is the family themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the times women do everything. So how are they gonna be able to do fisheries activities? Also the geographical location. Mostly they just do fisheries activities nearby their homes. So they will only settle on nearshore fishing, gleaning, and that's the case in the Philippines.
One of the publication I read, I forgot the author, but what he did stated is that one of the cultural barriers in African countries is this, that they believe that if a woman goes to fishing, she will not be able to give birth, and I think it also relates to what Philippines thought of that pregnancy. But all these cultural barriers of women not going to fish, in Morocco, there's a documentary that the women are going on sea and harvesting. So the myth of women going to sea, they will not harvest, it's not true. It's not scientifically proven.
Yeah.
There is the Morocco example can be used as an argument to empower the women. I believe that if we allow women to go fishing, there could be more sustainable fishing as compared to men. Because you women handle things better than we do.
But I think, but then traditional beliefs or cultural beliefs are really hard to change.
Yeah.
It has like strong foundation already. So even if you like present them scientific data of this and that, it takes more than that to change the
It's been there for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And I think there is also this fear that men have that a woman is hard to control when she has money.
Insecurity.
Yeah, it goes back to that. They think a woman can only be humble when they are under you, when you're providing for them, when you're giving them everything. But once they go ahead and get whatever they need, they believe the respect will not be there anymore. No humbleness will be in a home, which I think is not right because they are really educated families where there is respect in a home. So that also has
I think the challenge is huge, but we should promote policies that make the women visible, recognize their labor. So I think we have to work on that. We have to work.
About gender equality.
Yes.
Gender sensitive policies, approaches to empower women. You know, we have this gender mainstreaming.
There's so many things.
Yeah. But the thing is, it has to be effective. Because
Yeah.
we can say that there's a lot of laws right now, policies to empower women, but are they enough? Are they effective? And that's the issue.
Yeah, or we could work with what is on ground. We've seen in some places that women actually participate in fisheries. We can just polish on what is there, focus on what women do, empower them in doing that so that they know this thing is not only for men, and this thing does not only involve going to the sea and catching fish.
Yeah.
So if women also concentrate on the areas where they can actually handle very well, like marketing the fish, cost handling the fish, I think we can drive this thing further.
And I will really bring it back to the issue of the household. It really starts in the household. Because if the family members are willing to at least divide the chores, then the women are gonna be able to have more time and engage in fisheries activities, empower themselves. So we should start it in the household level. I think that's the root of all these challenges.
Yes, provided
I
you're
mean,
not willing to leave your children crying,
Yeah.
and then you want to go to the
But
state
even if there are programs for empowering women, for example, okay, there's a training for women, how are they gonna be able to attend to trainings if they have to attend their home? It's just the case.
Uh,
Yeah, it's
we-
complicated.
We are happy to be joined by Madame Iyaka. Iyaka is from Cameroon, and then she has been researching on vulnerability with regards to SSF. So I will introduce Iyaka, and then we'll also let it tell us a few things that we have already discussed in relation to what is happening in Cameroon. I hand over to Iyaka.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, our camera.
Introduce yourself.
I am Yakalo. I am coming from Cameroon. I am most focused on climate change and vulnerability of fishing community. So I hope that I just came, so I need some time to take.
Okay, thank you. We have been discussing SSF in different countries and perspective, how it's being handled. Like, is it open access in Cameroon, or they have to have a permit before they can harvest?
Most of the time, they need to have a permit to have it. That is theoretical, but in practice, it's not. It's open access.
Okay.
About implementation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Need permit, need many requirements to fish, but in practice, it's open
Yes,
access.
That's all our problem.
That's good. We also talked about the indigenous knowledge. How is it being handled nowadays in various countries? Are they incorporating them in our national policies, or like indigenous knowledge is being led to get that of local knowledge?
Knowledge of
How they used to fish in the past, in the 80s, 1940s. They used not sophisticated tools, and then they had a way of preserving their own fish. They know when to fish and how to fish and when not to fish. So how is it like nowadays?
in Cameroon, I will take that in two parts concerning regarding first the local fishing community and the foreigners. So talking about the local fishing community, they still use the traditional gear and all. So with their practice, they can really preserve the resources. But now concerning the foreigners, like, can I take one, like maybe Chinese because they are present in our ocean, in our water. So concerning maybe like Chinese or other foreigners, Ghana too, they fish with new technique, and most of the practice is not healthy for the water. So
We also had a discussion on the contribution of women in fisheries sector, and we had a wonderful discussions from different countries: Uganda, Venezuela, Philippines, and then Indonesia. So how is it like in Cameroon?
I think like most of developing country, woman is most in co-service. Woman is most in co-service, but now with the cries like no money, life is difficult, they are starting to go to fish. They are starting to bound the social barrier, so they don't really think now because for the past it's just men have to fish because of their religion, because of the culture, because of the tradition. But now life is not really easy with COVID, with all things. Everyone have to come together to try to support the household.
Yeah.
So now women started to go to fish. Few women that
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, like, another thing, we have discussed the contribution of the women, the culture barriers, the SSF, and let's turn our attention to what is happening now in with regards to blue economy of our countries, because now the island states are saying that we should harness the resources of our marine resources. How is this going to affect the SSF in your countries? Like in Indonesia, you guys have different islands and
Like the blue economy.
yes.
Our government is really trying to promote conservation. So there are several strategic plans that being developed in Indonesia to increase the quantity of the marine protected area. So I think it's a really good move to promote the conservation in Indonesia in a way to support the blue economy also. But it's kind of complicated because in case of in Indonesia that we are a developing country that our small scale fishers is really depend on the fishing industry. So it's hard for us to follow the guideline or to just go black and white to choose conservation of the over the exploitation, because the fishers still need to catch the fish and to sell and then to feed themselves and to grow their family and something like that. So it's really something that we cannot solve in Indonesia yet. How to balance between the conservation and then our exploitation, but we are hopeful that the guideline and then the conversation about blue economy and blue growth will help Indonesia in order to lead our fisheries management to more sustainable, and then it will be benefit to improve the livelihood and then sustain our natural resource.
Oh, that's good. So, like, tell me, in Venezuela, how is the blue growth going to have impact on SSF?
Well, certainly the Blue Growth Initiative is important. We can develop several economic activities for improve our economy. But yeah, we have to be careful about the impact of small-scale fisheries. In the particular case of Venezuela, we have our main industry is oil. So we already have important problems with oil spills that affect fishing communities, affect the fishing grounds. They cannot go out to fish because because of oil spills, sometimes the water already polluted, there's no fish around. So we have to be careful about the promotion of blue growth activities like oil industry or tourism. We have to work on planning on coastal management plans to really have an order of all the activities that we can develop in the ocean, in the sea.
That's good. What about Uganda? Philippines, do you have any thoughts?
So, given the Philippines are key pelagic nature, growing Philippines blue economy is complicated. It's really complicated. There's a lot of
potential conflict. Since so I think marine spatial planning is necessary in order to be sure that our small scale fisher folks are not affected by this blue economy initiatives. Because most of the times we focus on developing our blue economy, the tourism industry, the shipping industry, but then during the process there's a like big probability that our small scale fisheries are gonna be neglected. So it requires a lot of planning and considering and respecting the space for the small scale fisheries.
I'll come back to Uganda. So how is it like? Because you guys don't have a marine, but blue economics and includes underground water and then inland, based on the definition of African Union. So how is it going to have impact with SF Uganda?
Well, just like everywhere where there is development, I would say the poor always suffer. Like people always suffer. Because in most cases, such developments look at the high-end products and neglecting the initial benefits of the resource. So just like my colleague has said, it all involves planning and working together to ensure that people are not displaced. Because I'll be honest, in my country, most people engaging in capture of fish are poor people. They really have money, but it brings back the question that we were asked in class, that fisheries are poor because they are poor, or are they fishers because they are poor? So there is really something that is going on between the fishers themselves that needs to be understood. But for now, we really have to work hand in hand so that no displacements are done despite the development, because we all need the development. But we need to look at the ground, the people who benefit more, however little they benefit. Because without them, without the initial fishermen capturing the fish, the bigger picture of fisheries at the end of the market value chain would not be achieved.
Cameroon, do you have any thought or ideas, or like how do you think this blue growth example, like they have mentioned the shipping industry, and then the maritime institution has projected by 2050 the industry is going to double. The wind energy is coming up and all these things. So how is it going to have impact on SSF in Cameroon, in your own thoughts and vision?
First of all, in Cameroon, SSF is not regulated. So it's not regulated at all. So with the blue economy, who is also the green economy, I think Cameroon is more focused to coastal tourism, shipping, energy than SSF. So with the impact of blue economy is that SSF will be more related beyond, yes, because until now it's just like it's not regulated. We know we have small scale fishery, but there's no real regulation. They just practice with the global law and all. So I think we will more affect the small scale fishery.
I think the main issue that we have to look at is that Jaka mentioned that SSS was not regulated,
Yes.
so therefore they may not have any power to debate or argue and say that no, we have our right to fish here. But Heidi did mention earlier that in Philippines, there's a buffer zone that has been 15
Yeah,
or
50
something.
kilometers from the coastline is for small scale fisheries.
So like these laws, it can be enforced. That's like no anything with regards to the wind energy, the mining should be allowed in this uh, areas in our countries. That would be a very good thing. And let's look at one thing that has been a very this thing is this that since 1950s, most of the countries have been providing subsidies to foreign industrial fisheries. And World Trade has been fighting so hard to ensure that this subsidies is being removed
Yes.
to help SSF. So how is it, what are your thoughts, what the other suggestions? Because the new director from Nigeria in Ngozi, in Ngozi, right? She her main agenda, because she's a woman, and then she wants to also make sure that the women's role and contribution in SSF are being empowered. So how is this going to in Indonesia? Can you share your experience?
In Indonesia, regarding the subsidies, we still have like ongoing discussion with WTO. So it's never been final. It's been for a few years because WTO suggests or the member wants to remove the subsidies. But in case of Indonesia, it's kind of a very, very big deal to remove the subsidies because it's one thing that really help our small scale fishers to improve their livelihood and to keep going with their income. But so far, I think removing the subsidies for Indonesia is not one of our option, even though it's really some ideally, if we can, I think, but I think Indonesian government and Indonesian coastal communities cannot afford to lose the subsidies just yet. So to deal with that, I think Indonesian government needs to have a better fisheries management, as we learned that if the fisheries management is strong or solid, and then maybe removing subsidy one day will be an option for us. But for now, there's not a wise option for us. So we hope in the future we can choose that road. But for now, our government still utilize subsidies to try to support our small scale.
Okay. What about Venezuela? I know Venezuela has been a key player in WTO arguing for subsidies reduction or increase or something. So can you share with us if you have any thoughts from Venezuela?
Yeah, it has been a long discussion, a long negotiation in WTO. Venezuela is supporting Venezuela, of course, is in the same position like Indonesia. We believe in the special and differential treatment for the subsidies. We cannot eliminate the subsidies like for all the countries at the same time because each country has different and special situation. And of course, for small scale fisheries, they still need the support to take care of their family, for their livelihood. So Venezuela position is like most of the developing countries, okay, yeah, we can discuss, we can negotiate about the subsidies in fisheries, but we do really need a special and differential treatment. We cannot eliminate just in one step. So I believe that these negotiations will continue, and I hope we can find the way to reach a consensus, an agreement.
Uganda, is there any subsidies issues in Uganda?
Yes, they are there, but they are being, should I say, politicized. Like the politicians take charge and use them for their own benefits. Yeah, which is against the resource management plan. So personally, I would second the issue of having subsidies in my country on condition that it is handled by different people, not the politicians. Because currently it's the politicians who are benefiting and using them for their own.
Good. Philippines.
In my country, there are programs by the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources providing subsidies to fisher folks, like providing boats. But you see, it's like, is it really helpful? You will see if it's really, it's an issue if it's really helpful or just them giving something. It's my own opinion. Okay?
Yeah.
So internationally, actually the Philippines is among the WTO members that have proposed to cap subsidies in order to limit excessive support for the fisheries sector. Because sometimes these subsidies threaten the Filipino fisher folks' livelihood. So it's a matter of knowing what the country really needs, because as my colleague said, our countries have different specific needs.
Yeah.
So it's really addressing the need of the country and of course the fisher folk.
Yeah. It's different treatment. for
Yeah,
each
it's
country.
different.
Like in terms of subsidy itself, the bad, the ugly, and then so like us, Terry said, it is not easy to remove or do away with the subsidy, but I think if we can remove the bad and the ugly ones out of it, then that will help to maintain our sustainable fisheries. Because I do remember, I'm very wrong, in 2017, China promised at the World Trade Organization meeting that they are going to reduce the number of subsidies and vessels in Africa, but still they are still not able to do so. So, and we are coming to the end of our discussion from World Fisheries University. It has been very interesting thought from the colleagues. We discussed about SSF in each countries, and then I'm so amazed to learn from each country how it's been treated. For example, in Cameroon, it is not regulated, so it will be very difficult to just mention. We discussed about the blue economy, the culture issues that are also facing the women in SSF, and then we discussed about the barriers, and then we ended up with subsidies. That has been a big topic. All right. So for all the countries. So we'll be grateful if there is any other questions from the participants from the world, then we will be glad to share our thoughts and ideas how we think is going to be solved.
Hello?
Put on speaker.
Hello, coordinator.
Okay.
Hello? Anyone? No one.
No. Okay.
You can close.
What time are we ending?
Yeah.
You said 9:15.
No,
So
it's
5 minutes.
in 5 minutes.
You
Yes.
can start.
So in summary, I will just give a brief summary of the discussion, what I learned from each countries, and then the lessons. Each country will give a conclusion remarks and how they think World Fisheries University being governed by FAO and funded by Korean government and hosted in PKNU has empowered them to go back to their country to implement and ensure sustainable fisheries in line with SDG 1 and then other goals. So I'll start with Kati.
Yes, please.
Kati, what has FAO World Fisheries Program has done to you and how is it going to help your country?
I would say, first of all, I would say thank you to the WFP because it has given me a platform to be able to speak from an evidence-based ground. In most cases, when you go to a conversation to talk, they want to know who are you, who is this person speaking, where are they getting all those facts. But with WFU and Food Agriculture Organization, I believe the knowledge I've got from here will be beneficial and they will accept me because I have represented my country very well. So I'm grateful and I hope to change fisheries for the better in my country. So thank you.
Philippines highly.
I would also like to thank the WFU FAO program for the opportunity to further my knowledge in fisheries field, especially in fisheries social science. It's actually very new to me, but it made me aware of what the fisheries industry, what is the situation of the fisheries industry now, and it made me aware of the importance of integrating the stakeholders in all the policies that are being established, and I hope to apply it and help my country as well. Thank you.
Indonesia.
I'm very grateful for this program because it's really give me exposure about the fisheries in so many other countries from my classmate and the professor. And then I think the most important thing that I learned is how important is fisheries management, that it will help to manage and then put everything in place, and then it's what's really Indonesian need for our fisheries.
Venezuela.
Venezuela. Well, I'm also grateful for this program, and I think the most important issue of World Fisheries University is the opportunity to share knowledge and experience with people from more than 20 countries. And we learned that our problems are quite the same, and we can find together the solution for those problems. And for small-scale fisheries in social science area, we still have to work. We have a lot to do. We have a long way, but it is possible if we cooperate, if we work together, and we continue with the research and all the possible ways to try to improve this sector.
Cameroon.
Cameroon, well, I am so grateful for WFU FAO because first of all, I never did fishery in my life, never. I came here because I want to coordinate fishery, climate change and forestry. And I hope all I learn can help me to improve livelihood of community. Yes.
In conclusion, as a moderator for this program, I would like to thank all of you for coming. And I'm really amazed about the in-depth knowledge you guys have in fisheries. Most of you came here without a background in fisheries, but it's so wonderful to know that you guys have acquired so much knowledge. I would like to thank Open House and Memory University for hosting us for this discussion. I'm very grateful to FAO and then Korean government, and we give a very big kind of approach to our started from our dean, Professor Lee, Professor Chan, Professor Bayo, Professor Chris, Professor Lee, and all the scholars that they wanted to invite for us to come to teach us, but they couldn't from Portsmouth, from Rhode Island, and Colombia, and co. I would also like to give a special acknowledgement to our aquaculture technology team. That's very soon one of FAO's students is going to start his PhD with them. So that is very good. And we thank Professor Bai for making this possible. And then we wish all of you all the best going back to your country. And we pray that God should help you to achieve your dreams and also help to ensure sustainable fisheries management.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice.
Okay.
Oh, beautiful.